Hello there, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to another episode of CookieCast. Today on CookieCast is the football podcast. We're talking football, even though there's no football. And that's not true. There's just no local football. There's still football going on, there's still football to predict. It was all a ruse. I was joking. I just wanted to hook you straight away. Make you think, why am I here if there's no football? Before we get started, please do consider like, share, subscribe and comment. Leave us a review where you can leave a review and get the podcast out into the world. Put it into people's hands. Give it to your mail person. Mail person? Mail delivery person. You know what I mean. Give it to the milk delivery person. Whatever. Anyway, let's get cracking. Here we go. This is CookieCast, the football podcast.
Recording in progress.
Yes. Those three words we've all come to. Love and fear in equal measures. Welcome along, ladies and gentlemen, to your weekly football fix, where just for 1 week only we've decided to not talk about Middlesbrough. There won't be any Middlesbrough talk on the podcast. Middlesbrough don't even exist, in fact. What a terrible time to be alive. So we're just going to dedicate this week just to talking about Nottingham Forest and Hull, because they're the only teams that actually, are worth any time spending on them. Obviously, to do that, we have to have the prerequisite experts. So, welcome into the podcast this week, Mr. Matthew Moore. How are you, sir?
I'm good, thank you. How are you?
Football aside, I'm really good. But, we'll come to that in due course. Obviously, that's the Nottingham Forest side of things done. The Hull City side of things, obviously picked up by Stuart Woodmansey. How are we, sir?
Hello. Yeah, I'm, oddly enough, probably the exact polar opposite of you right now, football terms.
Isn't that truly something? And as it was last week, he's not having to change teams this week, ladies and gentlemen. He is still an imp through and through. He is Lincoln City supporting Andrew Cook. How are we, sir?
Yeah, I'm glad to not be swapping teams. I quite like being an imp. It's really,
of course. Let me guess. You're probably knackered from your walk up that massive hill towards the cathedral today, yeah?
Yeah.
It's all right. Little bit of Lincoln banter there for you. As my brother went to university in Lincoln, so I know a little bit about the city. Not to
probably more about the gig scene, I should imagine.
Not to alienate the people of Lincoln too much, but I believe the phrase he actually used for it for the 3 years he was there was shithole. And I think in the entire 3 years he was there, he saw one gig in the 3 years he was there, because gigs bands just did not go to Lincoln, surprisingly enough. So, obviously, when we were podcasting last week, the transfer window was still open, and teams were still scrabbling around to do business. Some of our teams did more business than others. For those listening to the podcast for a while now, you might be able to work out which team did the most business, as it's basically copy and paste for this time 12 months ago.
Can we get to the fact though where it was like, no, we're not going to do that again. We're not going to do that again. Oh, the guy who helped us do that last year has just turned up at the ground, has he? Oh my God, they're everywhere.
I actually went to the pub with previous podcast alumnus James Panas last Thursday. Or was it Friday? No, it must have been Friday, because the transfer window shut on Friday. So it must have been Friday after work. And we were just having a couple of beers, and then we were watching Sky Sports News, and it just kept sort of like was ticking through. Like Forest had signed one, and then they'd signed another, and then they'd put bids in for this one, and then they'd inquired about this one, and then they'd put a loan offer in for this one. It's like, what the fuck is going on here? It was so hard to follow. So we'll start with Forest, as this could take the rest of the recording time that we have to get through. So, in counting up, not necessarily all on deadline day, but I had, since last week's recording, I believe I had note of 8 in and 6 out.
I've got 7.
Right.
There.
So one of the 7 that you might have might just be like I don't know if that's a guy who's not played in the first team potentially.
Or been a while anyway.
Yeah.
Or it might have gone through. I don't know. We'll check.
Okay. Well, if you've got your list to go through, then I'll defer to you, sir. Since it's your team.
I've got Loic Mbeso on loan, Jonathan Panzo on loan, Joe Huang on loan. That was quite a late one. That was like the other day, like yesterday, wasn't it? That was confirmed. Omar
was that one as like a sort of a?
I mean, it might be a sweetener for the
guys who came in.
I think so. I don't know whether it was like maybe they needed international clearance or something like that to confirm it, possibly. Omar Richards going to Olympiacos. I don't know whether that was last week or this week.
I think we might have covered that in a previous week's pod.
Right, so it was one of them ones where I couldn't quite remember where it was. Lewis O'Brien going on loan to Middlesbrough. Remy Freuler leaving in a swap deal to Bologna, I think, and then the one that kind of brought a bit of a lump to the throat kind of thing. Brennan Johnson leaving for a reported $7.5 million plus a 10% sell-on fee. So that one's quite a tidy little amount, considering he came through the thing. But the little video that they did of him from Forest for him leaving was quite a little kind of little bit of got the emotions going kind of thing.
Yeah.
And if you've been a Forest fan for a certain amount of time, you remember his dad playing for Forest and being good. Kind of quite a nice little comeback story, really.
Based on the this year's sort of fashion trends of the videos to announce people having the chair, surely they should have had like an ejector seat.
Or just someone pulling it out from underneath him.
Yeah, well, yeah, they should have literally tipped him out of the seat.
We need this for someone else.
Yeah. Get out of it. We've got 8 guys to announce here, knobhead. Come on.
We've got what's it? We've got a Chesterton sofa here, kind of thing.
So those were the outgoings. Obviously, one of those we'll discuss in a little bit more detail when it comes to the Middlesbrough side of things. The ins.
Yep. So starting on Thursday, Murillo for $13.7 million from, I can't remember which club that came from.
I had Corinthians written down.
That's it. Yeah, that's the one. Nuno Tavares on loan from Arsenal with an option to buy. My resounding memory of him is him being whipped off before half-time in the FA Cup a couple of years ago when Forest beat Arsenal in the third or fourth round. So, exactly. The as aforementioned Nicolas Dominguez, Argentinian international, in a swap deal for Freuler, is apparently like a bit of a badass defensive midfielder, snapping in kind of guy. So I think that one's meant to be kind of one of those kind of, and 26, I think, so quite young. Callum Hudson-Odoi for $3 million with $2 million in add-ons, which, considering Bayern offered $70 million for him not so more than 3 years ago, is a very unusual one.
That's the one that's caused me the most sort of like head scratching. How do you go from the champions of Germany really, really wanted you to you're not even being worth £5 million.
I just think he's got lost, isn't he? In that kind of, people take the pit. It made me laugh because I don't know who. I can't. Is it the Geordie guy? I can't think if it's Geordie or a Mackham on Sky Sports, and he made some kind of smart-ass comment about Forest signing 48 players, and I was like, okay, we'll go back. I'll come back to that in a minute. But we celebrate every signing Chelsea makes. And I think that's the problem with Callum Hudson-Odoi. He just couldn't get into the team, and then he got sent out on loan to one place, and then out on loan to another place. And your value at that point, you're not real value to the club that you're playing for, but you're also no value to the club that you've been loaned to either, because you're probably going back. So then they go, well, I won't play you then because we've got somebody else who can play in your role. And I think he just dropped and dropped and dropped. If it works like Morgan Gibbs-White worked in that kind of thing of, they know Steve Cooper from when he was the under-17s manager, he knows how to motivate him, then that could be a bargain. And, I think Forest are in that Brighton, and we're nowhere near Brighton yet, but they're in that Brighton phase of buying someone that we can then sell for a whacking great profit, and then we pull the next person in.
That was going to be my main point, the fact that he's clearly been brought in because he's got that link with Cooper from the England under-17s or whatever it was that he was in charge of. So he's clearly going to someone who knows what to do to get the best out of him. And I think that was another thing I was going to say. He very much strikes me being in the Gibbs-White mould of he'll sort of play in that sort of area as part of the front three.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And stuff like that. So it's just an extra option, really.
And then, this one's going to be, I'm going to butcher this one, Odysseus Valachidinos?
I don't know. Do you know what? I think that's probably as good as any of us are going to do with that one. I'll be amazed if he's not Greek.
He is a Greek goalkeeper signed from Benfica for 7.7 million.
And there was Andy's smile when you said goalkeeper, so he doesn't have to pick him for the predictions.
Just when he pings one in one time. I'm going to leave, and then, this one came through a little bit later. It was a bit of a kind of strange one. Obviously, was it Dvorak Origi on loan from AC Milan with a view to buy, with an option to buy? I think that is basically backup for Taiwo going to the Africa Cup of Nations, that one.
Yeah.
Andrew Omar Badeli.
Not quite as good a hit with the Vlachodimos or whatever it was.
No.
Andrew Omabamadeli, I believe it is.
Omabamadeli, 11.5 million plus add-ons. He comes with a reputation of being the best defender outside of the Premiership. That's what some people have said.
Yeah, I think he's already a senior Irish international, from what I understand. Yeah. He's already played in the Ireland first team. And I think it was a case of when Norwich didn't go up last season, they were probably up against it to try and keep him at the club.
Yeah.
And obviously that's come to pass in that he's moved on to a Premier League side. So,
well, that was a last minute one. Apparently, he was already in Rotherham, ready for the Norwich game, and they had to rush him down the M1 to sign for Forest.
Is he? What do you reckon? Because he's only quite young. Do you reckon he's more of a replacement for Bolly when he sort of has to give up?
Oh, that was it. Because I think that's the two. The podcast that I was listening to the other day was they were looking at saying what you're looking at is obviously Bolly is of a certain age, Felipe is of a certain age, and both of their contracts end this summer. McKenna, his contract runs out at the end of this summer as well, this season. So those three could possibly be moving on. So then you're looking at your boy from Norwich and Murillo being those replacements for those going out. So they're in the club. They're learning the ways. They're perhaps learning from experienced defenders. If those defenders get injured, like Bolly and Felipe tend to do, then we've got people in there. And I'm making assumptions about them, but I dare say they're probably quick. which I think that's the one thing Forest's defence has lacked. Basically since they've gone up is at pace.
That's the thing in it. Like you can almost sort of like you've got to be a centre back of a certain pedigree to be able to do it without having a turn of pace. You're talking about like a John Terry type there.
Yeah.
Like you always have to sort of know where you're going to position yourself because you know you're not going to be able to get back in a foot race. So, yeah.
So yeah.
Fingers crossed they've got pace.
Final one, and the one they've been chasing all summer, and it's kind of quite a coup, I think. Ibrahim Sangare from PSV for 30 million, which is kind of like the jewel in the crown, really. I've not seen him play. I've heard lots of good things about him. Looking forward to him. They reckon that he'll just walk straight into the team following the international break. But yeah, that's it.
So is he more of a central midfielder or is he more of an attacking midfielder?
I think he's like a defensive central midfielder, but can start an attack kind of thing. So, like, I don't want to say like a Roy Keane type, but possibly like a Roy Keane kind of thing. In the way that the players that we've got in the club at the moment are defensive and then pass the ball off. I think he's defensive and then carry the ball forward kind of thing.
Yeah, so maybe a bit more like obviously like you say, not a sort of a similar level, maybe like a Rodri at Man City sort of type player.
Yeah, that kind of instigating an attack as opposed to stopping an attack and then laying the ball off.
Yeah. Very, very nice. So that's Nottingham Forest business done and dusted. I'll leave Borough's till the end as theirs is the least of the three teams. So we'll go over to you, Stu. I have it as a straightforward 4 in, 4 out, if you've got the same.
Yeah, that's what I've got too. Sad news in the outs section for one particular member of the podcast.
He's already shaking his head.
Ryan Longman has gone on a season-long loan to Millwall, so he'll be linking up with George Honeyman on the bench.
And the worst thing is, when it's Millwall versus Hull, he can't even pick him to score.
Well, he could pick Honeyman maybe, but that might be a shout.
Yeah, he could pick Honeyman, but not Longman.
Yeah. So following on a season-long loan, although not to Millwall, Brandon Fleming has gone out. He's gone to Shrewsbury.
Was he a young kid? Because it wasn't a name that I recognised. Did he play in the season they won the League One?
Yes, he was part of the League One troop, but yeah, he didn't really feature much from that point onwards, but was there kind of in the background, like mainly sort of on the bench. But again, because he's a defender, not necessarily always your first port of call off the sub bench either. We had Javier or Xavier, depending on how you pronounce it, Simons. He's gone on a season-long loan to Fleetwood. Bit of an interesting one, I guess, in the sense of he's definitely one that they signed for the future because they only signed him earlier this year, and he's away out on loan. So I don't think that'll be with a view to a permanent or anything like that. Particularly, I would expect to see him back. And then in a double blow for Mr. Cook, the final one out the door was Oscar Estepinian. Now, this is another loan. He's gone to FC Metz. And the weird thing about this, or maybe more interesting part about this, is you'll remember the name, as everybody will remember the name, of Benjamin Tete. Well, he has followed the Tete because whilst Mr. Benjamin went on a permanent, Oscar has gone on a loan, but they've gone to the same team. So the former Hull City front line potentially lighting up the French First Division in the weeks to come. But yeah, that was the 4 out of the door. And then moving on to the ins. So we had Brandon Fleming had gone out as the left back away he went. Instantly replaced with another left back through the door. So we have James Furlong from Brighton. I've got his undisclosed fee, a 3-year deal. He's only 21 years old, so again they've going with a youth. Next through the door was winger Jayden Philogene from Villa. There are probably 4 different ways you could pronounce that, but that's what I'm going with. Another undisclosed fee, although Paul, you said you'd seen something reported.
Yeah, I'd seen something on Transfermarkt that said it was 5.8 million euros, but Transfermarkt stuff seems to be a bit hit and miss at times, because all the figures that I had for all the Forest players were all miles out compared to what Matt was giving. So I would take their valuations as very much, let's throw some numbers in the air and see what sticks to the page.
Officially, it was undisclosed, but again, another 3-year deal and another 21-year-old. We have a couple of season-long loans coming in. So we've got now this is the one for me. So Bora Idinlik on a season-long loan from Fenerbahce, and he's only 18 years old. And finally, Tyler Morton, a midfielder from Liverpool, again on a season-long loan. He's only 20 years old. So I don't know whether it was the mission statement to reduce the overall age of the team, but they've certainly done that. I think because all 4 of them combined age is probably less than just Oscar on his own by the way that he runs some weeks.
Poor old Oscar.
I know. The thing for Oscar is that there is a time that comes where you need that big brick shithouse that's in your 6-yard box and just poaches a goal. But like that was needed at the time when Rossini took over the team, I think, because the first instance was to shore up everything at the back and just fight for what you can get at the front, and that kind of fit nicely. Whereas now, we're into this system of play 600 passes through your goalkeeper and build from the back, and yeah, that's not suiting him at all. So yeah, it was unfortunately it was probably an obvious one. It was my first instance of having to explain to one of my children why their favourite player had left, which was quite sad times. But yeah, I'm quite happy with it. They left it very late. There was the obligatory "the lights are still on" picture of the training ground at about 10 o'clock on deadline day. But seemingly the Philogene one particularly, they definitely had that all sewn up in the days before, and we're just waiting for stuff to go through, because in the darkest part of night, they somehow still managed to release his welcome to the club video, which was definitely shot during the daylight, possibly from 3 or 4 days before. And funny enough, he was wearing a full training kit, so he was definitely in the door before it was official.
Yeah, Borough had a similar situation. Borough had a similar situation for that, which I'll come to when we get to theirs. So yeah, like a nice bit of symmetry there with the 4 out and the 4 in. So can't really argue with that. So we'll just finish it off with the Borough news then. So just the one outgoing, but it is, I'd say, quite a significant one. One of the main signings of the last main signings of the Neil Warnock era was Martin Piero, who joined the club from Banfield, I believe, in Argentina, and he came in with a bit of pedigree to him. Was looked at as the latest of the long line of the next Maradona and stuff like that, and whatnot. He started a few games, scored a goal against Cardiff, and then just as he was getting sort of to grips with the English game, he looked like he was getting up to speed. He got a nasty injury that put him out for a couple of months, and then when he came back, he never really seemed to get back to speed with the English game. He spent time on loan last season with Boca Juniors. Came back, played a couple of games earlier this season, won in the cup against Huddersfield, and he's since been sold to Udinese. So we never really saw the full potential of Martin Piero, sadly, but he's now left on a permanent basis. There were 3 incomings, however. As we've discussed before, Lewis O'Brien, central midfielder, signed on a season-long loan from Nottingham Forest. Probably plays in a similar sort of vein to a Johnny Howson type, but obviously 10 or 12 years younger, so you'd imagine his legs are a bit more under him. I wouldn't be surprised.
Good.
Sorry?
He's a good player. It's a shame he didn't get a chance at Forest. I just think, unfortunately, we moved very quickly.
Yeah, I'd seen there was a couple of posts from like Forest perspective saying that there was fans of theirs that said they couldn't believe that he wasn't in the squad as an option for the central midfield berth, but obviously they just felt that they had strength in other areas. So he'll strengthen the centre of the midfield, which is looking a bit lost at the minute. They also signed an attacking midfielder, Sam Greenwood, on a season-long loan from Leeds. He can play anywhere across the front three, so you'd imagine he'll probably fill the role potentially taken by the loss of Chuba Akpom. Might just fit in behind the striker or play off one of the wings. And the last player they brought in was a left-back or left-wing option of Alex Bangura, who signed on an undisclosed fee from SC Cambuur in Holland. Don't know an awful lot about him, but it just gives an extra option on that left-hand side. Going into the season, they literally had one player who could play that left-back role in Hayden Coulson. They've since strengthened that in two players who can now play in the position, so they've got three options. It'll be interesting to see if he starts the first game back after the international break as the guy they had brought in as the starting left-back. Sounds like he struggled in his first 3 or 4 games. So it might be a case of give him a rest, give the new lad a run out, see how he gets on, and we'll go again from scratch when we get that sorted. So that's all the transfer business done and dusted. Thankfully, there won't be any need to update any transfers now until January. So we'll have to scrabble around trying to bring you long lists of players that have moved. Yeah, so that's that section of the podcast done. We're going to go into last week's games and then give you the predictions for the 2 England games that are coming up this week. But before we do that, we're actually going to take a small break just to recompose ourselves. I might even blow my nose at some point so I don't sound like I've got some sort of beach ball in my head. And we'll be right back with you, so don't go anywhere. We'll be right back.
Recording in progress.
See, short, as opposed to small. Short and nondescript, and we're right back at it. Don't need to worry about it, do you? So, week 5's predictions, the last games going into the international break, starting with Chelsea versus Nottingham Forest. This one didn't exactly go to plan. Did it, Matthew?
It did not. Complete surprise. I think we've seen the highlights and reading the reports. Forest more than held their own. I think there's a lot of I think the big, obviously we can't beat them with the haven't scored away for however long stick. You can't beat them with the haven't won away from home stick. So now we're going to carry on with the look at the possession stick kind of thing. And as Gary Birtle said the other day, it's all well and good having the ball 60 to 70% of the time, but if you do nothing with it, then it's pointless having it. And that was pretty much sum up Chelsea, really. I think from what I saw, Forest had some really good chances. Obviously Taiwo was an aerial threat. People got around him. Chelsea had plenty of chances as well. Is it Nicholas Jackson with Ronnie Rosenthal-esque miss? It was easier to put it in than not, but somehow managed to shin it over the bar, which was quite an effort. I mean, to shin it is always good, but to shin it over the bar is an epic kind of performance. But yeah, getting his first goal for the club, Anthony Elanga. It was a really nice finish. I think he'd just come on as a sub for Danilo, who's got, we're not quite sure, but an injury where nobody was near him and he just pulled up. So that one's always a bit of a concern. But yeah, ball played out from a Chelsea corner. Taiwo slipped it through, I think, Thiago Silva's legs. Nice little megs, and Alanga took it and slotted it past the keeper. Forest 1-0 away win, which, big surprise. I think the thing with Chelsea is obviously when we talked about the kind of thing that people mock Forest for signing loads of players. We did only sign 14 this summer. Chelsea have signed a whole new squad worth of players. When you're the club that gets your only page, you're flicking through your pages on Instagram, and they get one photo section to themselves because they've signed so many players, and yet there's no harmony. They haven't bought a player that could score goals for them, yet they've spent £1 billion.
This is what I just don't understand. They've spent £1 billion and they don't really have like an out and out 20 goal a season striker that's guaranteed to get them goals. They haven't bought a world class striker, and if I was a Chelsea fan, I'd be really concerned.
Well, I think really concerned is putting it mildly on the basis of the window closes, your team is ridiculed for spending so much money. Now is the time to put a stamp down and finish a team 3 or 4-0, especially, no offence to Matt, that scoreline wouldn't have been out of the way.
No.
And then you go and celebrate it by losing 1-0 at home. Okay, well done, lads. Maybe Graham Potter wasn't the problem after all.
Oh, no. It seems like a completely rudderless ship. It seems to be just fucking bad, more money after bad kind of thing, and you just think, I don't know who's their player recruitment, but like someone said, it seems to be they hear who somebody else wants to buy and they go and buy them, as opposed to thinking, right, well, we've got 20 midfielders already. We don't need another one. We need to go and buy a striker, or we need to buy a defender. But screw those guys. We won 1-0.
On the plus side, you got 3 points and a deal on Hudson-Odoi, so
because now they're selling off their academy players on the cheap because they've got to stick within financial fair play.
Yeah, it's certainly worrying times if you were a Chelsea fan. From a podcast perspective, Andy was the closest here. He'd gone for a 1-1 draw. Sterling and a Wanye to score the goals. So sadly, doesn't get any points. Me and Stuart both gone for 2-0 wins for Chelsea, whereas Matt had gone for a 2-1 win for Chelsea, and then also picked a Wanye with the Forest goal. So 0 points scored from all of us. Our second game of the week took us to Leicester, where Leicester City were taking on Hull City, and not to deja vu this, but this one didn't go according to plan, did it, Stuart?
No, it did not. This is one of those games where the final result can only be described as bonus points. Leicester were unbeaten going in, 100% record for the season, and Hull decided to turn up there and claim their third win of the season with a goal in the 15th minute from Liam Delap. And that was the only goal of the game. When you're not at the away game and then you see the notification come through with the goal and then you check the time and you're like, oh my god, there's still 75 minutes of this game to play. Let's pretty much rinse and repeat from day one of the season against Norwich. Delap scored early and was like, oh no, this is too early. We're not gonna hang on to that for 75 minutes. Well, whatever lesson that they got taught at Norwich seems to have been applied here, because they absolutely did. Delap cut in from the right, tried to bend it in the far corner, and a slight deflection took it further away from the goalkeeper, but it was on target, still his goal. The statistics of the game kind of say it all. I'm not saying that Hull had to grind it out, but in the game there were 10 yellow cards and 6 of them were for Hull, so that kind of tells you maybe that they turned to the dark arts somewhat by the end of that one. But the possession, as Matt mentioned in the other game, Norwich 64% to Hull's 36%, but yet Leicester's 64%, but they only had one shot on target. Hull managed 4 with their 36% possession. So, all in all, like I said, bonus points. It's way too early to be looking at the league table for any kind of sense of purpose, but it's looking a damn sight better now than it did this time last year. So we'll take that for now. But yeah, very, very surprised and very happy result from the weekend.
Absolutely. From a podcast perspective, myself and Stuart both gone for 2-0 Leicester wins, so we don't get ourselves any points there. Matt had gone for a 3-1 Leicester win and had picked a 2-fan to score for Hull, so no points for Matt. Mr. Cook had gone for a 1-0 Hull win. Gets himself 2 points. Sadly, doesn't get any points for the goal scorer, as his goal scorer had left before the game had even played, with Estepinian too busy playing in France to be worrying himself about a game in the East Midlands. So, sadly, just 2 points for Mr. Cook for the correct score. So,
Just the two.
Or just the two. For those keeping score, after two games, Andy has 2 points. The rest of us have jack shit. We move to game 3. And speaking of teams that got jack shit, it takes us to my team, Middlesbrough, taking on Queen's Park Rangers. Oh dear God. This one was possibly even described by myself. I may have even done this on the podcast as not in the realms of must win, but cannot lose, or cannot afford to lose, or shouldn't really lose. I mean, should have really seen what was going to happen off the back of that. And of course, they lose 2-0. The first goal, one of those goals where if it's scored against you, or if you score that goal, you're immediately off your chair. You've got your hands in the air. It's one of the best strikes you've ever seen. I don't know how you guys feel about this. If I see a really good goal scored against my team, I tend to applaud it.
Yeah. You kind of like... this kind of go, fuck, what can I do about that?
Yeah, you're not like, there's literally nothing that you can do to stop that. This was one of those goals because it was, the ball was just being sort of passed around in the centre of the pitch. Got worked back to Andre Dazelle, who took a touch to get it out of his feet and then just absolutely thunderbolted it into the top left corner. It was that clean a strike that the keeper literally didn't dive for it. He just had to watch it go into the corner. And you know when the keeper's planted, it's a great strike. Because the keeper's either thinking, that's going over, or there's no point diving for this, because I'm never getting there. And it literally was right in the top of the corner, like postage stamp area. And it was one of those ones where you just have to take a seat back and just go, I'm sorry, that's just a fantastic strike. From the looks of the highlights, Borough didn't really do much. They had a couple of opportunities where Latte probably could have done better. With a couple of chances he had in front of goal. There was one where it broke to him in the 6-yard box, and he drew a save from Asmir Begovic. Wasn't able to beat him. And then in the 66th minute or so, QPR put the game to bed when Jack Colback, of all people, popped him in the box after the ball was pinballing around to smash home the second. I'm pretty sure he even got the assist for the opener, so he's had the most creative game of his entire career, it would seem, at this point. Yeah, it's a result that leaves Borough bottom of the table, 1 point from 5 games played. Just really, really bad. Lacking creativity, lacking any sort of spark, lacking goals, which we've discussed before. Obviously, Akpom, 28 goals in the league. Archer, 11 goals in the league. Force, who didn't start the game, 11 goals in the league. Ramsey scored 5 or 6 in his loan spell. you take all those out of the team altogether, and you're basically talking the best part of 50 goals that's gone from the starting 11. So no wonder that he's taking him a bit of time to re-gel. But I suppose the only good thing is that we've got this break now where Carrick can get them for 2 weeks, drill them on the training pitch for 2 weeks solid into like what they need to do, whether it's a case of they change the formation, change the shape, change something. If I was, I'd be disappointed if come the next game against Blackburn, if they just set up with the exact same 11, with the exact same positions, because it just screams the definition of insanity. He's doing the same thing and expecting different results. If it was me,
to change.
You would think he'd go just have a change and go to 3 at the back. Just do something. Put the extra centre half in. We've conceded first in every single game we've played this season. So there's clearly huge issues with the defence. Now whether that's the 2 that are sitting in front of the back 4, maybe that needs to change. Or if it's literally the back 4 as a whole, whether you need to drop an extra central defender in there to play 3 at the back and have wing backs. Something. Just do anything. Do anything different. Just don't keep playing the same formation and expecting things to change.
I would say with the way that sort of football works these days, that he will already be on the radar for the questioning, as we've talked about offline. But looking at your next 3 fixtures, particularly against an away day at Blackburn, isn't an easy feat. It's not.
Nope.
An away day at Hillsborough, again, not incredible. But then Southampton at home. If they carry on like that, I can't see him making it to Southampton. The Southampton game. I think the next 2 games are crucial for him.
I think he's got enough. I think he's got enough goodwill in the bank from how he did last season to prove that he's clearly a good manager, and he clearly knows how to motivate the players because of that run that went on last season. But obviously, all managers have their sort of their lifespan and stuff like that. Obviously, Gibson's proved in the past that he's not unwilling to pull the trigger when he feels the time is right. So I wouldn't be surprised if they don't get a result within the next couple of games if the change is made. But I would like to think that they don't do anything drastic.
I think the international break almost makes it worse for him because, like you said, he's got that added time. He's got time to implement new things, to try different ways of getting the job done. And if it still comes out on the negative end of the results, that kind of... It's like you were saying about if there's no plan B, what's the point, really, in that regard?
Not good. Not good. And also what was not good was our predicting on this particular game. As we'd all picked, Middlesbrough wins. The only one of us that had picked Queen's Park Rangers to even score was Matt, and he picked Albert Adoma. So no points there. So for those keeping score, that's 3 games played. No points for myself, Matt, and Stu. Andy currently leading with 2 points. And our final game of the week is, of course, Mr. Cook's boys at Sinsel Bank. But they weren't playing at Sinsel Bank. They were playing at Andy's other team, Bristol Rovers. And they managed to get a 1-1 draw. I've actually seen the highlights of this game, and the highlights were so good that in the first half, they showed one passage of play. Bristol Rovers literally attacking and firing a shot across the goalkeeper that went straight out for a goal kick. That was the entire highlights of the first half. In the second half, Lincoln took the lead. There was a long throw from the left-hand side that got cleared out, and then a cross came in to the back stick where I think the keeper dived for it along with the attacker from Lincoln and the defender from Bristol Rovers, which kind of took the keeper out of the game. But the ball span back and was basically just on the line for Adam Jackson to tap in the opener. That's the way it stayed until the 94th minute, where Bristol Rovers popped up with a corner from the right hand side. swung in where Grant got his head on it to force the equaliser to salvage a late 1-1 draw. Josh Grant, that was, from a Bristol Rovers perspective, scoring the equaliser. From a podcast perspective, we all had picked Lincoln City wins. So myself and Mr. Cook were mere seconds away from a 2-point jobby, as we had 1-0. I had House to score, Andy had Hackett Fairchild to score. So sadly, no points for either of us. Stuart gone 2-0 with Hackett Fairchild and House to score, so no points there. Matt had gone for a 2-1 Lincoln City win with McCormick to score for Bristol Rovers, Mandrieu and Bishop to score for Lincoln. So no points. So for those of you keeping score, that's 4 games, no points for myself, Matt and Stu. So taking the win with his 2 points from his correct score in the Leicester-Hull City game. It is Mr. Andrew Cook. Well done to you, sir.
Thank you.
So, as we discussed, it's International Week, which means no club football. We don't even have the joy of a Lincoln City game to fall back on from a predictions perspective, as they have postponed their fixture, I believe, with Exeter. There must be some international call-ups, or they've just taken the option to just not play the game. Who knows? Some sort of shady dealings going on. I do apologise, it was Lincoln City versus Oxford that was scheduled for this weekend, but it has been postponed. So, that just leaves us with 2 England games to predict. So, the first of which is Ukraine versus England. Obviously, it being the national team, it's no one's team as such, or it's everyone's team, whichever way you want to look at it. So there will be no going first or going last. It will just be the order that I just read the names out. So I would like to know what Andy has selected for the Ukraine-England match, please.
2-0 to England.
0-2. Goal scorers?
Kane and Rashford.
Just to double check, Rashford's still in the squad, yeah? He hasn't pulled out from a mystery illness or injury or anything. He hasn't got any kids that
I took it from the website, so I have to work on the principle.
Fair enough.
I've just seen that Grealish and Trent Alexander-Arnold are out. That's the only two.
That's fine. Doesn't really affect my prediction. I too have gone with a 2-0 England win, and I've gone for Kane to get both. Stu, what have you got?
Well, it's a hat-trick of 2-0 England wins.
Yes.
And it's a qualifier, so we know Kane's going to score. And to make it an exact rinse and repeat of the last time these two sides faced each other, I've got Saka to get the other. So Ballon d'Or nominated Bukayo Saka.
Too right. Matt, is it a quartundret? I have no idea. Quartet, that's the word.
No, I've gone for 1-3 to England.
Goal scorer for Ukraine?
Yarmolenko.
And your 3 England goal scorers?
Kane, Saka and Rice.
Kane, Saka, Rice. Saka, Rice. That's the first game in the books. The second game is not a qualifier. It is just a friendly. And it could possibly be the least friendly game of football on the planet, as Scotland take on England. Just a friendly, nothing on the line from a points or ranking perspective, other than pride, I suppose. I'll jump in straight away here. I've gone for a 2-2 draw here. I've gone for Nisbet and Adams to score for Scotland, Saka and Bellingham to score for England. Matt, what have you got for this one?
I've also gone for a draw. I've gone for 1-1.
And the goal scorers?
McGinn.
big old Tushy McGinn.
And stat padder extraordinaire, Harry Kane.
Andy?
2-0, or a 0-2, should I say. England win. Saka and Wilson.
You think old Callum will get the nod, do you?
Yeah, that's another player who doesn't start for his team.
Go on then, Stu. Give us the last prediction of the week.
I have got Scotland 1, England 2. So for Scotland, I have McTominay. And as you said, it's not a qualifier, so I feel like he'll play some of the subs and the people that maybe are on the sort of further reaches of the squad. Maybe some of the new guys. So I've gone for Rashford, and I believe he's been called up. Was it Eddie Nketiah been called up?
I did wonder if anyone was going to be tempted to go for Eddie in his first call-up, and so it has transpired that someone has.
Well, it was between him and Eze, but I think that Nketiah is more likely to get at least some game time. I think Eze is probably just going to be a bit of a bench warmer, to be honest, which is a shame because I do like it.
I don't know, to be honest with you, because the fact that Alexander Arnold's dropped out means that there is, in theory, there is a place in that midfield going begging. Because normally you'd imagine that it would be Alexander Arnold, Rice, and Bellingham as the three. So you've only got two of that three there. So,
but there's big Rainbow Laces himself to come in.
Yes, the man.
I hear Bobby Charlton hasn't had a game in a while as well, so could he get him in as well? He's never let England down, has he?
No, it's going to be massively impressive when starting both England games is the combined Premier League minutes of about 6 from when Maguire came on against Arsenal through injuries, no less, not because of a tactical change. And it's him, Phillips, Henderson, and Kane all starting.
But Phillips won't understand what's going on though, because normally he sits down for 90 minutes, and then gets given a trophy.
Well, what can we say? There was talk of him being a last-minute transfer and target for Liverpool, but obviously nothing ever materialised out of that.
That kid annoys the life out of me. If he wanted to actually excel at football, he'd be going somewhere to play football. He's too happy to sit and do nothing.
Yeah. Sadly, that is definitely the case, but you never know. He might decide in a year or two's time that he actually wants to play again and push for a move. There, ladies and gentlemen, that's another week done and dusted, all sorted out for you. Thank you once again to these three wonderful gents for joining me to take you through the ups and downs, ins and outs, and happenings and whatnots of our football teams. Join us again next week where we'll go through the England games, predict up some Hull, Middlesbrough, Forest and Lincoln games for you, and we'll just have a jolly nice time. But until then, you stay classy, stay safe, and we'll see you next week. Bye.
So there we go, what do you think to that? England games, that's what we were talking about all the way at the start. There are England games. Thank you for listening, thank you for watching, thank you for being here. If you enjoyed the podcast, give it a like. If you enjoyed it a lot, share it around. If you enjoy the podcast as a whole, subscribe, leave a review, check out the website, thecookiecast.com. There you can get in touch with us through a variety of different ways, social media links, email button, etc. Big thank you for watching, big thank you for listening. Until next time, when we get back to regular football, regional football, I'm going to say bye, and I'll see you then.
Thank you for listening to these grumpy old men talk about football. If you've enjoyed this episode, please like, share and subscribe.